Welcome, everybody, to the Predictive Playbook. This is a special edition. Making his debut is Bobby Krivitsky. I'm very psyched to have him on this show. He's a heavy hitter, guys, and he is an NBA reporter for @B-Ball Insiders, the voice at SportsMap Radio, sports anchor and reporter, former NFL and NBA columnist at Bleacher Report, and host and producer of Learfield Audio. Their shows reach a minimum of 96 different radio stations when they go on the air. So they have a big footprint here in the digital world. So welcome to the show, Bobby. I'm so glad you were able to make up time here to be a part of this.
John, you were nice enough to come on my show on SportsMap Radio Network, The Diehards, and gave fantastic advice for people, helping put money in folks' wallets and their bank accounts. So I'm here to return the favor.
Excellent. That's exactly what we like. So we're going to start with the NBA. We're going to talk a little NHL playoffs too, and also then branch out into college football, which is about 80 days away, if my calculation is right. It's definitely double digits now.
We're getting closer.
Triple digits. Yep. Very exciting time. COVID, is becoming way in the rearview mirror, so to speak, and hopefully it stays there. But in the NBA, we have some exciting finals going on here. We have two teams in the Eastern Conference with Atlanta and Milwaukee. I think you would agree, the two teams that we did not think were going to be in the final. We kind of thought it was going to be the Nets and the Sixers, but the NBA betting gods found it more appropriate to have Atlanta playing Milwaukee, and they will be playing later today. Actually tonight at 8:30 p.m. It'll be televised on TNT, and Atlanta won the first game on the road at Milwaukee, and it just seems like Trae Young is playing with no fear, and I think I'm almost starting to get scared to bet against Atlanta in this series. How do you see this unfolding tonight?
Yeah, it's been interesting because Trae Young, he was on fire in the last game, but overall for the postseason, he's not shooting particularly well from three. What's happening is he's consistently getting to the free throw line. That's how he killed the Sixers in the last round. And if Mike Budenholzer isn't going to adjust and continues to drop back his centers and let Trae Young have a free path to the paint, then it's going to spell doom for the Bucks as well. We'll see if a coach who's not known for making adjustments actually does so in a very important game too. You don't want to say must win. Just look at what the Clippers have done out west, consistently digging a hole and then getting out of it. But it is an important game for Milwaukee on their home floor. And so I don't love the line at -7.5, but if you're a risk taker and want to go that route, I do think that there's a reasonable chance that they cover for you.
Yeah, I think that's the side that I'm leaning towards. I haven't run my models yet, but you got to think that Milwaukee's going to bring a kind of like an attitude tonight. They can't possibly go down 0-2 and think that they have a chance to win the series. The Clippers have done it 3 rounds in a row, as you know. And, you keep digging out of holes like that, and it becomes very hard. It's exhausting.
It can just be brutal. And for Milwaukee, I think that they showed a lot of mental toughness to get through Brooklyn. Injuries or not in that last game 7. But nonetheless, Chris Middleton, that was as many days off as he's going to have between games, and he didn't seem to have his legs underneath him. He was 0 for 9 from 3. So they really need to shake off what happened in the series opener and come out and get a victory.
Yeah, I agree. I like the player props too, which I give out at the Manny's Pub Show at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. And, I had Paul George last night. It was over 32.5 points, rebounds, assists, and that easily won. But I'm thinking like Trae Young here, over 44.5. The under is -122. My lean is to the under. Do you necessarily agree with that, or do you think I'm kind of crazy to do that?
No, that's where I have it as well. Granted, he had as many rebounds as Brook Lopez and Chris Middleton combined in the last game. That figures 7 for those curious. But nonetheless, I think as good as the Hawks are on the boards, and we can get to some guys on that front who have intriguing numbers, But I just think Milwaukee knows they have to crack down. They're a good rebounding team in their own right. And so even if Brook Lopez isn't on the floor all that much, I think that at a minimum, Trae Young's not getting 7 rebounds once again. So I'm on the under there. I think they're going to crack down on him defensively and give Drew Holiday a little more help. So I'm with you. I would take the under.
Yeah, and that leads right into my arbitrage, like I like to call from my Wall Street days. So Drew Holiday over 33.5 points, rebounds, assists, minus 105, I think is pretty cheap in my opinion. And that's what I'm playing, exactly how you described it. Bet under 44.5 with Trae Young because Drew Holiday will be all over him tonight, you would think. And playing over 33.5 with him at only minus 105, I think is somewhat cheap.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Drew Holiday had a fantastic game one in his own right. And defensively, I really didn't think it was him getting cooked outside of that one play where he got crossed up and Trae Young gave one of the most disrespectful shoulder shimmies I've ever seen. But even on that, what you saw it mostly being a product of is that drop coverage from the Bucks where they bring their center back to protect the rim. And so that gives Trae Young all kinds of daylight to do whatever he wants. And usually it's a free path to the rim. So I think Milwaukee, again, like I said earlier, Coach Bud's not known for his adjustments, but if he sticks to his guns, then they're in huge trouble in game 2.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely 100% agree with the whole analysis. Good work there. Now on Saturday, looking ahead here, we have on ESPN at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, the Phoenix Suns are at Staples Center to take on the LA Clippers in Game 4. The Clippers last night, it looked a little hairy there. They're only up 4 points in the fourth quarter, but the final score was more indicative of how I thought the game went. It was amazing that Phoenix closed that fast to only a 4-point Clippers lead. Nevertheless, the Clippers got the must-win win in Game 3. So this would tie it up, and this would be the third time in the playoffs that the Clippers have fallen 0-2 to come back and then go 2-2. How do you see this if you have any leans this early before Saturday night?
Well, I think I might be the leader of the Suns bandwagon. So I didn't know if they would get Game 3 or Game 4. I thought maybe with Chris Paul coming back that, granted, you worry about fatigue and stamina, and a lot of players, when they return from being in health and safety protocols, it takes them actually a couple of weeks to recapture their rhythm. But with a veteran like that, I thought he'd be able to work around it. Wasn't really the case. Him and Devin Booker combined to shoot 10 of 40. Booker seemed to be struggling with the mask, so I don't know if he decides to play without it or put in the work to get as comfortable as he can for this next matchup. But I like Devin Booker's over on the point total in this game. Like I said, whatever his adjustment is regarding the mask, I don't think that he's going to struggle from the field as much as he did in Game 3.
Yeah, I lean that way too. Absolutely. You can't hold that guy down more than a couple games. They make adjustments, and we've seen teams do that in the playoffs, and I definitely agree with you. Let's move on to the NHL, where the unbelievable has happened, and I'm not surprised. I was talking to Don Buster of Sports Memo yesterday, and he's a big Canadiens fan, life fan, and professional bettor, and he knows how to separate the two. But he, the last 2 games, has been big time on the Canadiens, and I'm not surprised that they're advancing, and in dramatic fashion with the overtime win against the Vegas Golden Knights. Do you think they have I think they have the chemistry to do it all now. I have no doubt that's the bet to take once the Stanley Cup is set here. What are your thoughts here moving forward?
Yeah, if people can still find good value on them to now win the Stanley Cup, which they've already stamped their ticket to go play in, then by all means. I'm wondering at this point if that's still the case and you can find good value because they're so late on the Cinderella run. But the only reason that I'm not surprised is because they have that team of destiny vibe to them. The Knights were certainly the more talented team and billed as the heavyweight that just steamrolled their way past Colorado, winning 4 straight against the Avs. But like I said, Montreal, ever since they went down 3-1 against the Maple Leafs in the first round and started playing their young guys, they've been a different team. And of course, Carey Price has been outstanding between the pipes.
Yeah, I love it. And tonight we have a game two, but it's not actually game two, but it's a elimination game here with the Islanders playing the Lightning, and this is game seven. Excuse me. Tampa Bay. I actually lost a 5%er, which is our top rated play. It's 5% of your bankroll. And professionals generally bet 3, 4, 5%. They don't go to the window and say, I have a 10-star game of the month. You know, tongue in cheek there, but that was my top rated play. It was on Tampa Bay, and they won 8-0 in game five, as you know. But what a lot of the listeners may not know is that in the playoffs in the NHL, teams that have scored 8 goals in their previous game were 8-1 in the next. So now it's 8-2. But that was a very powerful angle that just didn't come through, and it just shows you that not all these 5%ers win, but it's over the course of a season. You grind out the profits and you move on game to game. But I was surprised. I mean, it was an overtime win. Lightning were up 2-0, and you think that, well, the final score is going to be 6-2 or something like that. And I was just dead wrong on it. Now it seems like the Islanders have all the momentum in the world, but they have to play at Tampa's house. So I'm pretty clueless on this one, Bobby. So I hope you have some good information to help me decide who I'm going to take tonight.
I think that being cautious going into this matchup is the way to approach it. We don't know, or at least I haven't seen what Nikita Kucherov's status is yet. I wouldn't be surprised. Again, maybe that's out there and I missed it, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's right around puck drop shortly before the start of the game. I think that Tampa's going to play that close to the vest would be my guess. And so I look at some what I consider safer bets than trying to go for the whole sandwich, if you will. So Braden Point, whether it's a goal, an assist, that guy's phenomenal. And I do have confidence that he's going to get himself onto the stat sheet tonight. Steven Stamkos is a good person to bet on scoring. And then from the Islanders side, like you said, they've got momentum coming into this one. I'd love to see Nassau Coliseum get another series. So perhaps Matthew Barzal or Palmieri is a good person to back to put one in the back of the net. And if you are just itching to put money on this game as a collective, then I would say that there's a lot of value with the Islanders at plus 150. So maybe take them first period.
Yeah, I like the dog. I'm definitely a money line dog guy because, again, over the course of the season, that's how you make money in this business, Major League Baseball especially. I just love the breakdown you're doing. And now we're going to make a pretty big transition to one of my best sports, my most enjoyable sports, and it's the NFL and college football. But for this show, we're going to look at college football win totals. And you have 4 teams that we talked about before we went live here. And I like your choices quite a bit. And let's start in the SEC here with the Ole Mississippi Rebels here. They have a lot of returning starters coming back, and they're probably set to do some really good things in the SEC this year.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what Lane Kiffin does in year 2 with the Rebels. I would take the over at 7.5. They're minus 110, and they won 4 games in the SEC only gauntlet they had to deal with last year. They have an easy non-conference slate with teams like Tulane and Liberty. I think they should beat Vanderbilt and Tennessee as well. They've got a neutral site game against Louisville, who struggled last season, so that might help you get to that over. So I like the Rebels. Like you said, a lot of returning starters. I think they're in good shape to pound that over at 7.5.
Yeah, I like it too. Yeah, that's going to be a good season for them if they get to 9 wins, for example. That would be an excellent second year for the Rebels. Now we move into the Big Ten, and anybody who knows me knows I'm kind of a Big Ten guy. I think just by coincidence, but I do enjoy that conference quite a bit. This year it seems like Ohio State, though, is head and shoulders up better than everybody else in that conference, and it's going to take probably a road upset loss for Ohio State not to go unblemished in Big Ten competition this year. But there's a lot of other teams in the Big Ten. And one of my favorite trivia questions, Bobby, is I'll say to somebody, name the teams in the Big Ten. And they count them, and they'll name 10 teams, but there's actually 14. So kind of a corny little joke there. But Nebraska is in the Big Ten, and they're fan base, I think, is getting a little tired of these subpar seasons. This is a legendary, historic football program that, 20, 30 years ago was always going for the national title. Anything short of that was a failure. So now we have Scott Frost, who used to be the quarterback for Nebraska back in the day, as the head coach. And they're, what do you think is going to happen this year? The fan base is going to go crazy if they don't win more than 6 games.
Yeah, so maybe they should have their earmuffs for this one. Scott Frost, it was such an exciting hire at the time, but they haven't won more than 5 games since he took over the program. There's uncertainty at quarterback. They lost several starters who transferred. So, John, I don't see this being the year that Frost leads the Cornhuskers to 6 wins or more. My advice is to take the under on that.
Yeah, and the recruiting wasn't very good. And then you're in the Big Ten and you're going up against Penn State, which as much as sometimes the fan base there doesn't like James Franklin, he's actually closing the gap with 4- and 5-star recruits in the Big Ten. So it's kind of Ohio State and then Penn State and then the rest. Michigan has really been off the last 3, 4, 5 seasons with less and less recruits of 4- and 5-star caliber going to play there. So I think you're right. I think Nebraska, they may win 4 games, and I can't even imagine Scott Frost getting fired, being the star quarterback that he once was for that program. But anything's possible.
Yeah, I think patience has to be wearing thin on that front. Clearly, he's going to get another season, but if it doesn't go well, and we're out here saying take the under, then that might be the time to make a change. Another guy in the Big Ten, like you have a soft spot for it in your heart. I really enjoy watching Big Ten football. But Harbaugh, guy you just mentioned, he's got to be on the hot seat as well. It was a chance that they moved on this past offseason. So if he doesn't turn that program around this year, then it's hard to imagine he gets another campaign.
I was surprised he made it this far, to be honest with you, because he's never beaten Ohio State, and that's their rival. They hire a coach to beat Ohio State. You could lose the other games and save your job by beating Ohio State. And as of right now, regardless of where the location is, I believe it's actually at Columbus. I would see Ohio State as like a 20-point favorite over Michigan right now. So, he's got his work cut out. And, the athletes, again, the depth is not there like it was when he first took over that program. So I wouldn't want to be in his shoes. That's for sure. Now, another one that is on the rise, though, is the Miami Hurricanes, and I know you like them, and I definitely agree with this, so I'll let you tell us why.
Appreciate it. So, full disclosure, I have a soft spot in my heart for the U. Those 30 for 30s, for instance, are phenomenal. Love the swagger that they're known for. They've had a lot of down years over the course of this century, really. But nonetheless, you look at this team, this is removing emotion from the equation because it's about business. I would take the over at 9.5 wins. It's plus 125. And when you look at some of the helpers that they have on their schedule, Appalachian State, Central Connecticut, and once you get past the teams at the top of the ACC, the conference, in my opinion, is not particularly impressive. And the Canes don't even have to worry about facing Clemson. So I do think that, every year we hear, is Texas back? And Miami, we kind of worry. We hope going into the season that it's going to be like that for them and they'll return to prominence. At least I do. And people who are fans of the Canes. But I legitimately look at their schedule and the talent they have on both sides of the ball. And I see no reason why they shouldn't get to over 9.5 wins, health permitted.
And if my memory serves correct, they have a pretty darn good quarterback coming back this year, too. Last name is King, I believe, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So they're in good shape there. And like I said, there's a lot of guys returning on both sides of the ball. So I think Miami, that continuity is going to help them as well.
It's great stuff. And then we have your final wins total bet in college football out in the Pac-12. And Stanford University Cardinal is the one that you like here. And tell us whether we should go over or under.
Yeah, it's not even that I think they're going to have a particularly strong campaign, but at over 4 wins and minus 110, Stanford's never won less than 4 under David Shaw. They've got winnable non-conference games like Vanderbilt and Kansas State to help them get over 4 wins. So you got to figure that they take care of their business to some extent in conference. So I think Stanford over 4 wins. Looking at David Shaw's track record with the Cardinal, I think that that's going to come through for people.
Yeah, it's awesome stuff, Bobby. So to recap our show here, and correct me if I'm wrong, I have us as definitely on Milwaukee tonight in Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Then we have Game 7, the Islanders against Tampa Bay, and certainly the value would be on the Islanders, and that's our lean there. And then in college football, we have over win totals on Mississippi 7.5, under Nebraska 6, Miami over 9.5 plus 125, that's I think my favorite one for what it's worth. I mean that's just looking really really good. Like I should go bet it right after the show.
I think the Canes are going to come through for people.
Yeah, I think I see. I just quick pulled up their schedule and I see 10 almost automatic, and nothing's automatic, but it's pretty visible that they could win at least 10. We don't have to worry about COVID cancellations either. That was a nightmare with win totals last year. You just didn't know, so therefore I didn't bet any. And then lastly, Stanford over 4, and that would be 1-2 that I like because that's the Pac-12 where if there was a conference that's weak and has parity, it would have to be that one. So I don't see anything wrong with Stanford pulling off about 3 or 4 upsets as a dog. So 4 seems to be really, really cheap.
Yeah, plus they've got some non-conference helpers in there, like I was saying earlier. Vanderbilt, Kansas, those are 2 very winnable games. So I think Stanford gets it done. The Pac-12, like you're saying, it's not a particularly impressive conference right now. The ACC, at least, is stout at the top, and then it gets pretty weak after that. The Pac-12, though, it leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah, it's not what the Pac-12 used to be. It used to be run back U at USC. But maybe they're on the rise. These things run in cycles. But I don't see any changes this year, that's for sure. So that'll do it today, Bobby. I really appreciate you being on. We're definitely going to have you on multiple times. If it's ever possible to do it on a weekly basis, you're certainly welcome to do that with us. So for Bobby, myself, the Predictive Playbook, WagerTalk.com, and SportsMemo.com, may all the wins be yours.